Hey everyone, quick one. If you were in the hero's shoes, would you choose revenge or forgive? Comment which and why. Now let's dive into the story. The moment I stepped into the back row of that church, I knew nobody recognized me. And honestly, I was counting on it. They were all dressed like a catalog page from some high end funeral brand. But me? I wore plain black slacks, a black blouse, nothing that screamed fire service. No dress blues, no pins, no honors. Just silence. I didn't want attention. I just needed to see it with my own eyes. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 41 years old, born and raised in Decatur, Illinois. I left home at 18 and never looked back. That decision got me disowned by my own father. I slid into the end of the pew farthest from the pulpit, keeping my head down. A woman 2 rows ahead passed a funeral pamphlet back by accident, and I caught it before it hit the floor. My breath stuck in my throat the second I looked at it. The front had a family Christmas photo from, I don't know, 15 years ago. I recognized the living room, the fireplace, my mom's cardigan. The two boys on either side of her were my brothers. My dad stood behind them, hand on her shoulder. And where I used to be, on the far right, cropped out, just a sliver of my sleeve left. Like a mistake someone forgot to erase completely. Quick note, before we go on, tell me, where are you watching from right now? I stared at that picture for a solid 10 seconds before folding the pamphlet shut. My hands didn't shake. I'd buried worse than this. The last time I saw my father was when he screamed at me on the front lawn the night before I shipped out to basic. I had gotten my offer letter from the Illinois Fire Academy, and instead of celebrating, he threw a chair across the porch and told me I was spitting on everything your mother gave up to raise a teacher. Then he told me to get out, so I did. And when my mom got sick, I didn't hear it from him. Or my brothers. I found out through a Facebook post from my cousin's wife. A photo of mom in a hospital gown with some caption about praying for strength. That was how I learned she had cancer. I shifted slightly as the pastor finished the opening prayer. That's when my father stood and walked to the podium. Same cheap haircut, same upright military shoulders, voice still cold and steady. My wife, Catherine, was a woman of grace, of dignity. She lived for her family. She loved her children with her whole heart. Bullshit. He said it like there were only two of us. Like I had never existed. I kept my eyes on him, my jaw clenched. He had no idea his daughter was watching him lie through his teeth. I stayed in that back pew the whole service, still and quiet. I didn't cry. I couldn't. My face felt frozen, like my body had sealed itself shut the minute I walked through the doors. The slideshow started. Every picture, every memory felt like a spotlight swinging past me. Birthday parties, school plays, vacations in the Smoky Mountains, all of them framed around the perfect Mitchell family image. My brothers laughing with dad, my mom holding pies and gifts and babies. It was like someone had gone through every box of family history with scissors in hand and clipped me clean out. That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was knowing that for 23 years, none of them ever tried to fix it. I thought back to the beginning. I started in a 2-station department in Mattoon, pulling night shifts and cooking eggs in a toaster oven between calls. I was 20 years old and already stronger than most of the guys twice my age. By 28, I was a battalion chief in Springfield. At 32, regional director for the Southern District. And by 38, I got sworn in as State Fire Marshal of Illinois. You'd think maybe one of them would have picked up a phone. Nothing. No calls, no letters, no congratulations. Not even when I made the front page of the Chicago Tribune standing next to the governor after the warehouse explosion cleanup. I kept a straight face for the cameras, but all I could think about that day was how I didn't even know if my mother had read the article. She had. I didn't know for sure until later, but looking back, there were signs. Quiet ones. I'd get these blank postcards in the mail. No return address, just little generic things. A cornfield in autumn. A lighthouse in Michigan. Once I got a box of homemade chocolate chip cookies with no note. No clue who sent them, but they tasted just like hers. It was like she wanted to reach out but didn't want to get caught doing it. And I let that be enough. Even after I found out she was sick, I didn't come home. I told myself it was about keeping peace, not wanting to start a fight at her bedside. But deep down, I know it was pride. I was afraid if I showed up, she'd say she didn't want me there. That she'd look at me like my father always did. Like I had failed the family somehow. So I stayed away. I buried myself in work, coordinating wildfire response plans in southern counties, launching EMT certification programs, building disaster infrastructure after the big floods near Grafton. I was good at all of it. Better than good. I trained 600 fire departments statewide, managed a staff of over 12,000, rewrote the emergency ops playbook from scratch, and not a single soul back home knew a damn thing about it. Sometimes I'd see kids with their parents at graduation ceremonies or ribbon cuttings and feel this hollow echo in my chest. Not grief exactly, just the quiet thud of something I lost a long time ago. I'd stand up straight, hand out certificates, give speeches with a smile, but I'd go home alone. I thought success would fill the silence. I thought if I climbed high enough, maybe I wouldn't hear that voice in my head anymore, the one that asked if my mom was still proud. But standing there in that church, watching my father clasp his hands and bow his head like a model of grief, I felt every second of distance crash into me all at once. All the birthdays missed, all the holidays passed over, all the memories my brothers got that I didn't. And somehow, even knowing how angry I was, even knowing how much I'd sacrificed, I still felt guilty. Like I should have done more. Like I owed her more. I stood quietly when the crowd rose for the final prayer. I didn't bow my head. I kept my eyes locked forward, past the flowers, past the polished casket, straight at the family who never looked back. When the service ended, I slipped out before anyone turned around. I kept my head down, blending into the shuffle of coats and murmured condolences. I drove my rental alone to the cemetery. The family had some black shuttle vans waiting at the curb, but there was no way I was getting in one of those. I hung back and circled around, parking near the maintenance shed where the landscaping guys kept their trucks. From there, I waited. I watched the burial site from the far hill. Everyone clustered under that green canopy. Folding chairs, polished casket, more flower arrangements than the church even had room for. The sky was overcast but dry. No wind, no thunder. Just a quiet kind of tension that matched the pit in my gut. After about 20 minutes, the crowd started thinning out. A few older relatives wandered off toward the cars. Some cousins hung around the snack table someone had stupidly set up under a separate tent, a real funeral party vibe. I finally stepped out of the car and started walking across the grass. Each step felt heavier than the last. My boots pressed into the damp soil like I was sinking. My brothers saw me first. Josh was standing near the open grave with his wife and 2 kids, holding one of those stupid bottled lemonades like it was a picnic. He froze when he noticed me, blinked twice, then nudged Kevin. Kevin turned, squinted, and his face dropped like a stone. They didn't say anything, didn't wave. But the shift was obvious, shoulders tensed, eyes locked. I saw Josh mouth something to his wife, and she took the kids back toward the car. I kept walking. My father was speaking with the pastor at the head of the grave, one hand resting on the casket like he owned it. His back was to me. I didn't hesitate. "Hi, Dad." He turned around, slowly, like he expected to see a reporter or a stray mourner. The moment his eyes landed on me, the temperature dropped. He stepped forward, eyebrows furrowed. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I came to say goodbye." "You're not welcome here," he snapped, loud enough that heads turned. "You made your choice 20 years ago. I'm not here to cause trouble. You already did. You abandoned your mother. You let her die without even calling." That one hit, sharp and fast. "I know I should have been here," I said steady. "I don't have an excuse for that." "Damn right you don't." He pointed at me like I was a trespasser. "You think showing up at the grave makes up for what you did?" "I'm not trying to make up for anything," I said. "I just came to pay my respects, same as everyone else." "You think this is the same?" he barked. "You weren't there when she couldn't walk. You didn't sit through the chemo. You didn't watch her lose everything." I looked him in the eye. "And neither did you when I left." That stopped him for half a second. Then his voice came back, louder. "You turned your back on your family to go play with hoses and pretend you were better than us." A few people started inching away. Kevin looked like he wanted to jump in but wasn't sure how. Josh just stood stiff, arms crossed. "I didn't pretend anything," I said. "I made a choice. You didn't agree with it. Fine. But don't stand here and rewrite history like I wasn't your daughter for 18 years. You stopped being my daughter the minute you walked away from this family. And you stopped being my father the minute you made me." I regretted saying that the second it left my mouth, but I didn't take it back. The pastor looked uncomfortable. My brothers exchanged glances. Everyone was holding their breath. I swallowed hard and pulled it back. "I'm not here to fight. I came because she mattered to me. Whether you believe that or not." He didn't answer. He just stared at me like I was something rotting in the sun. I turned toward the casket, looked down at the polished wood, the nameplate, the roses. And then I took one slow step forward. I took that step forward and stood next to the casket. My mom's nameplate was polished brass, the script too fancy for her style. She would have rolled her eyes at it. Behind me, my father scoffed loud enough to turn heads. What, now you're pretending you care? This isn't your stage? I didn't turn around. I never said it was. You've spent your life chasing a damn title like it means something. What does that get you now, huh? Nothing. You weren't here when it counted. I turned then, slow and deliberate. You think my job means nothing? He smirked like I'd just asked if clouds were real. Oh, please. You're running around playing fireman. What do you actually do? Wear a badge, bark orders? You think that's more important than your own mother? I oversee every fire department in the state. I'm responsible for emergency response in all 72 counties. I've coordinated federal disaster relief during floods, fires, and tornadoes. I lead 12,000 people. He laughed. 12,000? You expect us to believe that? I don't care what you believe, because you never cared what we believed. He jabbed a finger at me like he was making a closing argument. You chose strangers. You chose a job. You chose being important over being a daughter. Don't twist this like I walked away for no reason, I snapped. You slammed that door shut and locked it behind me. Don't pretend I left a family. I left a man who couldn't stomach the idea of a daughter doing something he didn't understand. You think I was supposed to clap for you while your mother cried herself to sleep, wondering what happened to her little girl? Josh stepped in. Dad, maybe that's enough, Kevin added. This isn't the time. My father shoved their hands off. Number, she wants to show up now. Let her explain it. Let her tell us why she couldn't make one damn phone call while her mother was dying. I stared him down. Because I didn't think I was wanted. Because every time I thought about coming back, I could still hear you yelling that I wasn't part of this family anymore. He opened his mouth, ready to fire back again, but I cut him off. You don't even know how old I am. He paused, confused. What the hell does that have to do with anything? I'm 41, I said quietly. You don't even know that. You haven't known for 23 years. Silence spread across the cemetery like a dropped match in dry grass. He blinked, caught off guard. His mouth moved, but nothing came out. I could feel eyes on us from every angle. Distant relatives, old neighbors, maybe even a couple of Mom's church friends. Nobody stepped in. Nobody dared to breathe. You've spent so long being mad at me, I said, low and steady, that you forgot I never stopped being your daughter. I just stopped being the version you wanted. He shifted his weight, like he wasn't sure whether to leave or dig in deeper. His pride was fighting for air. You think being in charge of a bunch of fire trucks makes you better than us? He said finally. You think wearing a uniform erases 20 years of silence? Number. But I didn't disappear. I built something. I served people. I kept families safe while I had none of my own. I showed up for strangers because mine slammed the door in my face. Josh stepped toward me, his voice quiet. You really run statewide operations? I nodded. Every single one. From inspections to wildfires to emergency drills at grade schools. Kevin looked stunned. Why didn't you ever tell us? Because it wouldn't have changed anything. You made up your minds about me a long time ago. My father scoffed again, but it was weaker now. She still didn't come when it counted? I didn't flinch. You're right, I didn't, and I'll live with that. But don't act like I was the only one who stayed silent. He didn't answer. The air around the grave was tense enough to snap in half. No birds, no wind. Just that heavy weight pressing on all of us. I looked at the casket one more time. My voice dropped. I should have been here. I know that. And then I stepped back, letting the silence speak for me. I was still standing there, one step back from the casket, when the low rumble started. At first, I thought it was thunder. But then I saw the heads turning, the shifting bodies, people murmuring and squinting past the hedgerow, lining the back edge of the cemetery. The sound grew louder, tires on gravel, engines idling. Then I saw the first truck pull in. It wasn't a local engine. It was Springfield's Unit 1, white and red with gold trim and a state seal on the side. Then came another. Then 2 more. 8 in total. Fire trucks from across the region. They pulled into a clean formation along the perimeter. Quiet, deliberate. No sirens, no horns. Just presence. Every door opened at once. Uniformed firefighters stepped out in full dress blues, badges polished, hats sharp. They moved in silence toward the burial site. lining up shoulder to shoulder on the far side of the grave. No words, just quiet, solid respect. My breath caught. I hadn't asked them to come. Then I saw him, Deputy Chief Ron Talbert. He walked toward me slowly, his expression stone serious like always. Last time I saw him was 3 months ago in Peoria during a wildfire response audit. He stopped right in front of me, heels clicking together, and saluted. "State Marshal Mitchell," he said, voice steady and loud enough for everyone to hear. "Your department stands with you." The air cracked open. People turned. My brothers froze. Even my father flinched at the word Marshal. I nodded to Ron, then turned slightly as another figure stepped forward from the honor guard. It was Chief Harold Benson, retired now, but still a legend in our world. He took his hat off, held it to his chest, and spoke without a mic, but loud enough for the whole crowd. "I served 38 years in fire," he said. "Seen a lot of leaders come and go, but there's only one I'd follow through smoke blindfolded, and she's standing right there." He pointed at me. Sarah Mitchell didn't just lead departments, she rebuilt them. She didn't just manage crisis, she ran toward it when others backed off. Fires, floods, hurricanes, this woman led operations that saved thousands of lives. The crowd was dead silent. He went on. She worked through holidays, slept in her truck, trained rookies in parking lots when budgets got cut, and through it all, never once asked for recognition. She just did the job, and she did it better than anyone in the state. My throat tightened, but I kept my arms crossed, kept my jaw locked. Harold turned to the casket. "Mrs. Mitchell, your daughter didn't forget you. She just carried your strength into every firehouse she touched." He looked at me one last time. "We salute your service, Marshal." One by one, the firefighters beside him raised their hands in synchronized salute. I didn't look at my father, but I felt him. His posture had shifted. That stiff, commanding stance he always carried was slipping. My brothers just stood there, stunned. Kevin had his mouth slightly open like he couldn't process what he was hearing. Josh looked down at the grass like it was the only thing holding him upright. The crowd, the cousins, the in-laws, the church people, nobody said a word. All those years of silence, of being cut out and shut away, were burning away in real time. My father finally spoke, but his voice wasn't loud anymore. "Marshal?" I turned. "That's you?" I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Behind me, Ron stepped forward again, holding a folded flag, our state flag, embroidered with the fire marshal emblem. He handed it to me without a word, and I turned back toward the casket, standing in full view now. No hiding, no shadows, no shame. Let them all see who I really was. Josh was the first to speak. "You're really in charge of all this?" His voice was quiet, like he wasn't sure if he was asking me or himself. Kevin stepped up beside him. "Why didn't you ever tell us, Sarah?" I held the folded flag to my chest, still facing the casket. "Because I didn't think it would matter," Josh frowned. "How could it not matter? You think a job title would have fixed any of this?" I turned toward them. I could have been president, and he still would have called me a disgrace. Their eyes flicked toward our father, but he didn't respond. He just stood there, hands slack at his sides, watching me like I was a stranger in his own house. Then, in a voice I barely recognized, he asked, "Is it true? You're in charge of all of it?" I nodded once. "State Fire Marshal. I oversee every department in Illinois. That includes city, county, volunteer. I run statewide disaster response, manage crisis coordination with FEMA, lead wildfire and storm protocols, and I'm responsible for 12,000 personnel." He didn't move, just stared like someone had hit him over the head. Kevin rubbed the back of his neck. "Jesus, Sarah, that's..." He trailed off. I didn't need him to finish the sentence. Ron stepped forward again. "Ma'am, if I may." He opened a slim black case and pulled out a framed plaque with a bronze badge mounted at the center. Beneath it was an inscription plate. He handed it to me with both hands. "The department would like to present this posthumous honor to Mrs. Catherine Mitchell, mother of State Marshal Sarah Mitchell, in recognition of her sacrifice, her example, and the strength her daughter carries forward in service." My hands shook a little as I took it. Not from nerves, just from weight. I looked down at the plaque, then slowly turned toward my family. My brother stared, silent. My father looked like he hadn't taken a breath in minutes. "You want to know what I've done?" I said. "Now you do." The only sound after that was the wind pushing through the trees on the edge of the cemetery. No applause, no gasps, just the hard pause of people realizing they never really knew the person they buried me in their minds to be. Josh finally nodded, just once. Kevin looked like he wanted to say more, but didn't know how. My father's mouth opened slightly, then closed again. And I just stood there, holding a flag in one arm and a plaque in the other, wondering how long it would take before any of them figured out what the hell they wanted to say. Before anyone could say another word, Pastor Don stepped up beside the casket, holding a manila envelope against his chest. He looked uncomfortable, like the weight of it had gotten heavier in the last 10 minutes. "Sarah," he said, clearing his throat, "your mother left something for you. Asked me to deliver it if you ever came back?" Heads turned. Even the firefighters shifted slightly. He handed it to me gently. "She gave this to me a few years ago. Said she didn't want your father to know." I took the envelope without a word and walked a few steps away from the grave, away from the crowd. My fingers hesitated at the flap. The paper felt old, like it had been moved and touched and tucked away too many times. Inside was a handwritten letter and a folder thick with clippings. I opened the letter first. "My Sarah, if you're reading this, it means you came home. That alone means more to me than I can say. I want you to know something. I never stopped watching, never stopped following. Every promotion, every article, every photo I could find. I kept them all. I told people I didn't know what you were up to, but I always knew. I was proud from the very first day you put on that uniform." My hand gripped the top of the page like it might float away. I sat down hard on the cemetery bench behind me. "I know your father made it impossible for you to come back. I saw it. I lived in that silence too. But not a day went by that I didn't pray you were safe, that I didn't picture you walking into a fire and walking back out stronger. I felt the tears coming before they hit. My chest caved in, like everything I'd been holding back for 2 decades suddenly had room to move. I flipped open the folder. Inside were pages of printouts. My first promotion in the Mattoon Gazette, a photo from the Springfield ceremony when I made battalion chief, interviews from state newsletters, a copy of the Tribune front page from the warehouse fire with me standing beside the governor. She had highlighted the words, "State Fire Marshal Sarah Mitchell," in yellow. Every article was dated, labeled, carefully clipped. She hadn't missed a single thing, and she'd kept it all hidden. I buried my face in my hands and let the sob hit. There was no holding it in anymore. My shoulders shook, the plaque resting against my leg, the letter crumpling slightly in my grip. She had been there, just in a way I couldn't see. I didn't hear my father approach until he was standing right next to me. He didn't speak. I don't think he knew how. He looked down at the clippings, at the yellow highlights, the careful folders. His hands hovered over the edge of the bench, unsure what to do. "You never saw this?" I asked, my voice wrecked. He shook his head slowly. "She never told me. She didn't want to fight anymore," I said. "So she did it all in secret." He sat down beside me without asking, just for a moment, long enough to stare at a photo of me in my first Class A uniform, standing with my arms behind my back like I didn't quite know where I belonged yet. "She was proud," he said, barely above a whisper. "She was proud the whole time." I nodded, holding the letter to my chest like it might disappear. And for the first time in years, the silence between us didn't feel sharp. It just felt sad. My father didn't stay long on that bench. Maybe a minute, maybe less. He stood, still looking at the folder like it had punched a hole through everything he thought he knew. Then he cleared his throat and shifted his weight like he had to force the words out. "So, what do you actually do?" he asked. I looked up at him, surprised by the tone, quiet, unsure. I wiped my face and stood. "I oversee every fire department in Illinois. That includes hiring standards, budget approvals, training oversight, disaster planning." He nodded slowly. "I coordinate state response teams when we've got floods, chemical spills, wildfires. I manage the dispatch protocols and incident command systems. When things go wrong, I'm the one who gets the call." He looked down, hands in his pockets. "I didn't know it was all that." "I know. I thought—" He shook his head. "I thought it was just chasing fires. I didn't know it was all this." He paused, eyes still down. "I was wrong. I didn't jump in. I let the silence sit for a beat. Then I said, I was wrong too, for staying away, for letting pride win." He glanced at me, and for once, he didn't look angry, just tired. "I should have come home," I said. He nodded once, slow and heavy. I should have opened the damn door. Kevin walked over, arms crossed but not cold. So what now? He asked. Josh followed, looking between all of us. You going back to Springfield tonight? Probably tomorrow, I said. Figured I'd visit the house, maybe walk through town. Josh shifted awkwardly. You should come to Thanksgiving. Bring whoever you're seeing. I raised an eyebrow. You think I have time to date? He cracked a smile. Fair point. Still, open invite. Kevin added, same for Christmas. My wife. She'll want to know what to call you now. Marshall Mitchell doesn't exactly roll off the tongue at the dinner table. Sarah works, I said, smiling for the first time in hours. We stood there, the four of us, in a crooked little circle near Mom's grave. The wind moved through the trees again, softer now. I looked back at the casket. Some of the firefighters had already started to head back to their rigs, quiet and respectful. My father didn't say much after that, just stood close by. But he didn't walk away either. We lingered. Nobody seemed in a rush to leave. Kevin picked up one of the fallen roses and handed it to me. I knelt by the casket and laid it gently across the top. It didn't fix everything, not yet, but something had shifted. The cold between us wasn't gone, but for the first time in decades, it didn't feel permanent. The next morning, I packed early. I didn't say goodbye to anyone. I figured we'd had enough words for one visit. But before hitting the highway, I made one last stop. There was a little flower shop 2 blocks from the cemetery, same spot it had been when I was a kid, though it had a new sign and younger hands behind the counter. Just something simple, I told the girl at the register. Roses and baby's breath. She started building the arrangement without asking colors, like she knew exactly what I meant. My mom used to plant them together along the back fence. Red roses, white baby's breath, weaving through like lace. While she wrapped it, I borrowed a pen and a blank card from the counter, wrote the note in one go. For Mom, who never stopped believing, your Marshall daughter loves you. No need to rewrite it, no need to say more. 10 minutes later, I was back at the cemetery, standing alone at the grave. The fresh dirt was still uneven. I placed the bouquet right in the center, then tucked the note beneath it. I didn't cry. I didn't say anything out loud. I just stood there, feeling the weight of the years, of all the birthdays I skipped, the phone calls I never made, the letters I never sent. I wasn't that angry 18-year-old anymore, ready to burn bridges and never look back. But I wasn't just the hard-ass fire official either, hiding behind rank and silence. I was something else now, someone in the middle, someone trying to reconnect, trying to forgive, trying to be forgiven. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves around my feet. For a second, I imagined her voice, low, soft, telling me to stop overthinking everything like I always did. Telling me to come back soon, I would. Next time, I wouldn't be walking in alone. Next time, there'd be a seat waiting at the table. And when they took that Christmas photo this year, I'd be in it, no one cropped out.